welcome to Imbalancing the Spectrum. I am your host, Jose, and get ready for today's topic. Today's topic is also a very spiritual one. Um, it has a lot of controversy around it, and the topic is ego death. A lot of people have misconceptions about what ego death is. So, lately, I've been seeing a lot of videos that talk about how hyper spiritual people tend to towards this journey of killing the ego, and that as you do this, you are essentially killing your sense of self. Killing the sense of self could not be farther from the truth. That's not what ego death is at all. Let's start with what is the ego? Well, essentially, it is the sense of self, your self identification. And what what is it that an ego does? It helps us know who we are. I know that's kind of repetitive and redundant, but that's what it is. People who think that spiritual people, well, they are saying hyper spiritual people. There is such thing as a hyper spiritual person, and it tends to lead, from what I've seen, um, a state of self destruction. So I could see where the confusion lies. Um, but that being said, there you go. It's our little compass of who we are. And a lot of the times we use ego as a bad word or with negative connotations to it, attached to it. But that's because we've forgotten what ego actually is. And from my perspective, ego death is an ego rebirth or reboot, a restart. And and what I mean by that is that we are rediscovering who we are as individual people. The reason that ego death happens, and it can happen multiple times throughout your lifetime, some people call it a spiritual awakening. When this happens, it's because we are looking within and having or analyzing what it is that we went through that made us think, feel, or act a certain way. When we're kids, we don't think I should be this way. We think I am this way. But we're taught to think, act, and feel certain ways. It happens a lot in our childhood. There are some exceptions. Some people come into this world and they say, I am who I am and I'm not changing. And that's awesome that people are able to do that. But in life in general, whether it's your childhood, your adolescence, your teenage years, um, or your adulthood, or when you're older, you go through certain situations, certain experiences that make you think you shouldn't be the way that you are. Um, Historically speaking, this happens a lot with men and women. Men are told that you shouldn't have emotions or you shouldn't show emotions because it's a sign of weakness. And when you do show your emotions, toughen up, be a man. Don't be a sissy. A sissy. Those comments from other people, and usually it's people who are close to us, we start thinking that we're in the wrong for thinking, acting, and feeling the way that we do, that we adapt their ideologies, and we start acting, feeling, and thinking the way they tell us we should be acting, thinking, and feeling. Um, for women, historically speaking, they were to be, uh, supposed to be the one to stay at home and take care of the home, take care of the kids. Women's responsibilities were kids and serve their husbands. That's what women felt like they needed to do because they were told, stay in your lane. This is a man's world, not a woman's world. And generation from generation, people believe this. Even now, surprisingly, people still believe this. And unfortunately, some people still believe this and are made to feel that they have to believe this. You do not have to believe this. For women, they're allowed to show emotion because they're fragile. They're not fragile. In my opinion, they're strong. They're potentially stronger than man, mentally and emotionally. When you put those two together, you see things from a clearer perspective, while men are taught to put their emotions aside, and they can only see objectively, physically, and materialistically. When a man stumbles onto a minuscule issue, a woman can solve that issue in a matter of seconds because they think with their mind, they think with their emotions. And I'm not saying that men can't think with emotion. We can, and we just have to learn how to hone them in. Be the owner of our emotions and choose how to express those emotions. Um, Women have been the nurturers and the caretakers, while men have been told that they have to be financially stable in order to have a family and keep that financial stability uh, intact. Otherwise, you're not recognized as a true man. Well, this isn't even about biological sex or gender, whether you're man, you're male, female, um, transgendered, non binary, it doesn't matter. It applies to all of us universally because we are all human beings. So, this misconception of killing our assets, it comes from what we're taught we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to be to fit in society and to accommodate societal norms. Ego is based on emotion, whether that's anger, scared, fear, uh, enthusiasm, excitement, happiness, um, jealousy, sadness, whatever emotion it is that you're feeling, it's based on that. And when you're told you're not supposed to be sad, you suppress the sadness and it bottles up and it builds up. You express it in another form. If you're told you can't be angry, um, we're all human. We all feel all these emotions. But anger gets bottled up and transforms itself into another expression. And, well, basically, when we're told we're not supposed to do something or feel something or think something a certain way, we believe this, and this is where the negative ego starts to form. And for a lot of people, the negative ego is feeling superior to somebody else or feeling inferior to somebody else just because you're told you're supposed to be. And when you start healing from trauma, whether it's childhood trauma or throughout your life, um, you start healing the ego. You start rebooting it because this ego that we have within us comes from being programmed that way. And as we heal, we deprogram everything that has been told to us, everything that has been said to us that we adopted as truth and forgot about our own truth. We are all individuals. We all think differently, act and feel differently. And if we accept that we are individuals, we are our own people, we become self aware. And this leads us to being more tolerant of others. If we're not tolerant, if we're overly tolerant of people, we learn to set boundaries. So, technically, what ego death is, it is a form of deprogramming ourselves, tarnishing or cleansing ourselves. Think about it this way. A lot of people see death as a scary word. Death is just change. When everything has energy, first of all, and energy doesn't die, it just transmutes, it changes form. So, when you think about it this way, think about the seasons. You have spring, summer, fall, winter. And for me, spring is birth. Fall is aging, or not fall, summer, aging, maturing, learning. And fall, when the trees are dried up, the grass is no longer growing, plants are wilting. This is the death part of the seasons. And a lot of people will say, well, winter resembles death. And that's okay. I could see why they think that way. I saw it as death at some point as well because there are no flowers, there are no trees, bloomed trees, and everything looks so dead. But what happens during winter? Well, for animals, they go into hibernation. And this is kind of a energetic recharge, recharging their batteries so that they're ready for spring. And for plants, they're doing the same thing. They're recharging so that when spring comes, it blooms. And this is why fall resembles death to me, and winter resembles conception, because nature is conceiving itself so that it could give life again. Um, let's talk about spring again, real quick. So, a specific example, a metaphor, would be a rose bush. If your rose bush was blooming every year, it was healthy. It knew itself. It knew it had to bloom. It knew it had to uh, wither and bloom again. And if it stops blooming, first thing you should ask yourself, what's going on? Why isn't it blooming? Check the soil. What's wrong with the soil? Maybe it's been tarnished and um, it's been contaminated. So, what are the contaminations that I need to take care of so that this rose bush starts blooming once again? That's exactly what ego death is. We look within ourselves and we look for those contaminations. We start pulling them out. We pull them out, and we could only do this after we started our healing process from certain traumas that were tarnishing our ego. When we do this, we start seeing things from different perspectives or new, maybe not new, but we're relearning the perspectives that we were meant to have. For a lot of people, that can be difficult because we are taught that these contaminations are tradition and that tradition has to be upheld. Does it though? We're supposed to change constantly. Traditions change, um, the seasons change, we change. And when it comes to self improvement, that's what you're doing. You're changing the program within you. And you are able to accept yourself as you are. And that's a wonderful feeling to have and to experience because it leads to self love. And it also leads to acceptance of others, not tolerance, acceptance. When you accept yourself and others, it forms unity and understanding with everyone around us. Even if people around us can be dicks, like, I get it, I get where you're coming from, and those are your emotions. So I can't change that, but I can change the way I react to your comments. It can be hard because a lot of comments can trigger us into our past traumas. For example, people might tell you, you've changed. You're not the person you once were. That could be a good thing if it's for your own wellness, your mental health, then it's great. That's a great thing. Um, and what they really mean by that, when you're self improving, they're saying you're not the person that was benefiting or not benefiting, that I was benefiting from. I can't control you anymore. That's what they're saying. I can't control you. And I want to control you. So, what do? It's your choice whether to stick around with them. Sometimes you don't have a choice. But when you don't have a choice, you do choose how you react. For me personally, if I don't have a choice, you think that way, I'll continue thinking my way and just let it be. when I do have a choice, it's okay. You're not comfortable with my self improvement. Bye. Don't want you to think that you could tarnish my progress. I've done so much to improve myself as a person, and I'm not gonna let it be sullied by anybody else. So it's not necessary to be around you anymore. And they will take this to offense, and a lot of the times they will tell you that you would never be the person that you are because of them, that they made you be the person that you are. And this to me tells a lot about the person. So when they're in that negative ego mind state or state of mind, they think they could control you. They want to control you because they were controlled as well. And they thought or they were taught that that was the right thing to do. So they don't know any better because they won't look within and they won't do the healing. But if you're trying to do the healing, don't let anybody stop you. So this takes us from a positive perception of ego to a negative perception of ego. The negative perception of ego tends to be self-serving, self-serving, always me, which is a narcissistic trait to have. But let's go back to self-serving and self-preservation. Two different things. Self-serving is not acknowledging others and doing things for their own benefit. Maybe, just maybe, it could be that they went through something that they had to be on survival mode all the time. And being in survival mode makes you think, okay, either I conform to what they're telling me or I'll have consequences. So once I conform, I'm not going to have those consequences. If somebody else is not conforming, you're like, I'll stay out of it. I'm preserving myself. You're the one that's going to get the short end of the stick and you're going to be fucked. So that's not my business. Essentially, that's what self-preservation is compared to self-serving, which is I want you to do, I want you to think, I want you to act a certain way because it benefits me for my purpose. And we do see this a lot, and we've experienced it a lot. Either whether it's individual experience or historical experience. If you read history, you see this cycle repeat itself over and over, and it's being repeated in our present. As for individual negative ego, you've heard the phrase, don't feed their ego. Well, that's exactly what these type of people do. They want to consume validation. They want flattery. They want compliments all the time. And they can kind of turn into energy vampires. And these people, without that validation, that constant validation all the time, if they see that you're not validating, oh, they'll throw you away. You're not benefiting them, so boom, they'll throw you away. What the fuck was that? Okay, yeah, they'll throw you away. Anyway, so on the other side, on the flip side of a negative ego, instead of being self serving, you are over serving. You're people pleasing because you feel like that's what you're supposed to do. A lot of my life, I people pleased a lot. Um, because I was taught that I was supposed to put other people's concern before my own concern. And I didn't know how to break that cycle until I started noticing things that repeated themselves throughout my life. And I was like, I'm tired of this. I don't need this. So, no, I'm not going to do what you want me to do. No is a powerful word when used correctly. I'm not going to tell you what is correct for you, but that's because you choose what's correct for you. For me, saying no meant I'm not going to be taken I'm not going to be taken advantage of, and I'm not going to have people over consume my energy any longer. Once that mindset changed, I had a spiritual awakening. I had an ego rebirth, ego death. Um, and I started noticing the friends that I had, they started to go away all by themselves. I didn't have to tell them anything. They saw the change within me and they went about their lives. They looked for other people that could be a use to them. And usually this is what happens. So, and anyway, we go from a negative ego perception to a positive ego perception. Whether you're self serving or over serving others. And it can be applied in many ways, but for the most part, negative ego is passed on generation to generation to generation based on expectation, based on judgment, based on prejudice. You can be taught to be prejudiced towards yourself, which is something that we can all go through, or be prejudiced towards others and feel superior to them. Like I mentioned earlier, it can be feeling superior to others or inferior to others. But yeah, going through these emotions, healing from within, it starts the ego death. So if anybody tells you, or if you tell them that you're gone through ego death, and they tell you that you're killing yourself, you're killing your sense of self, just tell them, I feel better than what I used to, so it must be something healthy. That person is not gonna like it. They're gonna either try to convince you otherwise or move on. They'll disappear. For the people who are saying that ego death is self murder, those are the type of people who live with a negative ego consciousness, and they want to control you. They are telling you you're not doing things the way you're supposed to. Well, how the hell do you know what I'm supposed to do, be, act, feel? How do you know? You don't. You just don't. That's why individuality, diversity, inclusivity is so important, because learning to accept yourself, love yourself, and and others, uh, we form a connection as human beings. As human beings, we don't see a connection of labels. Oh, you're white, you're black, you're gay, you're straight, you're trans, you're cisgendered. We don't see those labels when we come to accept ourselves and others, because we're thinking with a positive ego consciousness. So if anybody tells you otherwise, it's your choice, of course, but tell them it's none of their business, or accept me for who I am or don't. It doesn't matter, because I accept myself. Do you have a problem with that? Oh, you do? Move on. I don't care. Simple as that. So, to summarize, ego death or ego rebirth is not a bad thing at all. People telling you that it is and you're scared to go through that journey, don't be scared just because somebody else told you that it's a bad thing. Follow your intuition. Follow yourself. You know what's good for you. Whether you're in in a negative or a positive state of consciousness, you know what's good for you. Continue to be how you are and continue your journey towards self-improvement, your mental health. Mental health takes a large part of self-improvement, and we are told otherwise. They tell us all the time, but basically what I'm trying to say is that Um, we are programmed in society, no matter the age. We are programmed. We adopt those ideologies. It is up to us to reprogram ourselves and learn who ourselves really are. Ask yourself, who am I? Who am I as a person? Not who am I as a man? Who am I as a woman? Who am I as black, as white, as Hispanic? Um, all the labels that exist in society. Don't ask yourself that. Don't ask yourself. You were born to be the person that you are for a reason. Ask yourself, who am I as a person? What are my values? What are my virtues? What are my flaws? Acknowledge them, accept them, love yourself. So, when you do this, you elevate your frequency and you transform your ego, or you rebirth it rather than transform it, because really you're just going back to your default settings. That's all you're doing with ego death. You're not killing yourself. You're not killing your sense of self. You're nurturing your sense of self, adopting your sense of self, embracing your sense of self. Okay, that's the last time I'm going to say sense of self. uh, but yeah, that's what ego death is, what it implies in a base aspect. Maybe I could go deeper into it. I won't, because if I go deep, I'll go too deep, and um, I could just talk about those different levels um, on another occasion. But just remember, this is important, that ego is emotion based, emotion towards ourselves. Once we know what those emotions are, we can express them towards others, whether they be negative or positive. You express those emotions. So I guess that's all I have to say for now. Remember that you can contact me, whether it's through my Instagram, imbalancingthespectrum.pod, or through email, imbalancingthespectrum.podcast@gmail.com. And I would love for you to comment if you like the content that I share. Please follow the the podcast as well as Instagram, and you could always contact me through there if you ever want to voice your own opinion, your own perspective. Feel free to do so, whether it's through email, Instagram, I'll read them, or if you want to be part of the podcast, let me know, and I would love to hear your perspective on things as well. Um, and like I've said before, it doesn't matter if we agree or not. I like learning from other people and being able to incorporate different perspectives onto my own beliefs. So, yeah, until next time, hope you enjoyed and stay tuned for more episodes to come. Always remember that we are all living on a spectrum. Bye.